Hello, hello, everybody. It's Shelly from Intrepid Wellness. I am jumping on today to continue doing my little mini trainings related to equine fitness. And just as a reminder to everybody, I have a course that starts on May 5th. It's a 3-session workshop about creating effective, safe, sports specific equine fitness programs. And so I'm jumping on Facebook Live every day between now and then to do a little training to give you like a feel for what's in the course. In case you're wondering, is this for me? Is this a good fit for how I want to spend my time, how I want to spend my brain power, how I want to spend my money, all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to give you guys a feel for it. So yesterday we talked about why horses need a fitness plan. You always can scroll back through the feed on the Intrepid Wellness page to catch that if you want to listen to it. Today, let's talk about tendons and ligaments. Tendons and ligaments are, like when we talk about why we have a fitness plan and what fitness plans are doing, tendon and ligament strengthening is probably one of the most critical things that we do with our programming with our horses. And so let's start by just understanding what a tendon and ligament is. In the course, I'm going to have pictures and diagrams and all that kind of stuff. Facebook Live makes it really difficult to share a picture and see what's happening on the screen. So I'm just going to talk to you about this here. But a ligament basically is the connective tissue that holds bones together. So it's basically like a strap that goes bone to bone. There's a few ligaments that do other things, but generally speaking, that's what you can think of with ligaments is bone to bone. So, imagine you have like two pieces of wood and you are putting something on there, a strap or something to hold those pieces of wood together. That would be equivalent to a ligament. Ligaments are the thing that hold our skeletal system. If we took off all of our horses' muscles and fascia and nerves and blood supply and all that, you could have just a skeleton standing there that wouldn't fall down, and that's because ligaments are tying everything together. Tendons are also made of connective tissue, very similar connective tissue to ligaments, but they connect muscle to bone. And so, our muscles are contractile properties in our body, horse's body. We're all mammals. So skeletal muscle is very similar in mammals. So muscles are designed to contract, and basically they're anchored into the bone so that when they contract on something, the anchor then pulls the bone and moves the bone through space. Bones do not move themselves. Muscles move bone. Tendons, then a muscle contraction would just be pointless and wouldn't have any effect, right? So in a muscle, you have a muscle that is, if you're a meat eater, when you're eating a piece of steak or something, you're eating muscle. So it's that kind of tissue texture. And then it tapers down to become into a tendon, which is, usually, sometimes tendons are flat, but they're often kind of roundish structures that are real cordy, and they then attach into bones. And the tendons, compared to ligaments, have more elasticity in them. So they're both made of collagen and other similar fibers, but if I put the two side by side, say, and I pulled on a ligament, it's going to have a little bit of give to it, but not a lot. If I pull on a tendon, it's going to have more spring and give to it than compared to the ligament. So when we talk about fitness plans with horses, what we're trying to do is 3 things in relation to our tendons and our ligaments. Okay. First of all, we're trying to get the collagen fibers in them to align to the line of force the horse is putting on them. So collagen fibers can go down a couple different ways, right? They can be like this managed, discombobulated mess, or they could like all line up in straight rows, or some version in between. And so if we have like the disorganized mess thing, sort of imagine a ball of yarn that has gone through the washing or the dryer and is like, it's like when you put your bandages in the dryer and then or the washer and you don't put them in the lingerie bags and they come out and they're completely tangled up. That's a good analogy for horse people. Sorry, it took me a second to find that one. Our collagen on tendons and ligaments could look like that in certain scenarios. And in the course, we're going to talk about when that happens. But what's so detrimental about that is if my fibers are all lined up like really weird ways, those fibers aren't really designed to take a specific directionality of force, right? And with horses, we know, a lot of times depending on the sport they're doing, the types of forces that are going to be putting on their leg, so like if I have a jumping horse, those forces are going to be going mostly like forward back with maybe some cutting action, but there's going to be a lot of force coming like on landing of jumps going like this direction, right? If you look at, say, a cutting horse, they're going to have a lot of forces side to side. So like we want those fibers to be aligned to accept and manage forces in the direction of what the horse is doing. And so a lot of work when we do fitness plans is, again, like we talked about in yesterday's training, we are progressively overloading those tissues to tell the body, this is the force that I want you to get good at accepting and dealing with. It's this one, it's this one, it's this one. And then what happens is the body starts to remodel and get those tendons and ligaments lined up to accept that force. But where a fitness plan comes in, right, is I can't just go out like to the top of my ability and be like, right now, this is the full force that's coming on, right? Instead, I have to gradually, like, let's pretend my full force is, we'll use easy numbers, it's 100 pounds or something. And I have to say, here's 1 pound, here's 5 pounds, here's 10 pounds. Okay, you're good at that. Here's 15 pounds, so on and so forth. And then I get to the max load. Because if I do that too soon, things break, okay? So that's our first thing we're trying to do with tendons and ligaments is align those fibers. Second thing is we are making the tether to the bone stronger. So we want, just think about if you're building something, right? And you put a screw in or a nail in, you want that to be anchored, man. This is why when we hang pictures on the wall, you're supposed to use a stud finder and find the stud in the wall and then put your nail in the stud, because you don't want the nail just in some like loose plaster that when you hang the picture, it's going to rip out. Ligaments, tendons, same way. We want them anchored really strongly into the bone so that when the bones get shifted, the ligaments can contain them. When the muscle contracts with a strong contraction, it pulls on that tendon, which pulls on that bone. Everything stays solid. And so it's just, you're going to hear this a lot if you take the course. Progressive overload. Progressive overload teaches our bodies, horses' bodies, to where it needs to be strong, right? Because the thing about mammals, really, the thing about bodies is a body doesn't want to spend calories where it's not needed. So we have to really train our horses' bodies about what needs to be strong and what doesn't have to be so strong. A body will not just reinforce everything all the time and spend that caloric load on keeping everything strong. Because if you build something strong, you have to maintain that strength, right? So that's a lot of what we're doing with our progressive overload of our fitness plan is saying, this is what I need you to do. This is where I need this to be strong. Put a reinforcing agent here. Make sure you maintain that. And then, part of the reason we keep coming around and doing similar work, like even after you've reached, say, peak fitness, you still have to do some work to maintain it. And a lot of what you're doing is you're telling the body, nope, I'm not kidding. I still need it. I still need you to use those calories to maintain that strength in those tendons to do this job. Yep, I know the horse had a couple days off, but let's remind you, don't start dismantling all the things we've built, right? Keep it, keep it, keep it. That's a lot of what we're doing as a fitness program as we progressively overload and then to maintain that peak ability. And then finally, the third thing we're doing with a fitness program is strengthening the actual collagen fiber itself, right? So if you think about, I'm totally making up numbers here just for the sake of giving you a visual, but let's just say a tendon has let's use 100 again, 100 collagen fibers in it, right? Each collagen fiber could be like really thin, like the width of a hair, right? Or it could be thicker, like the width of, I don't know, like the diameter of, say, 20 hairs. And we want to train the body to, again, use those calories and build that up to make those collagen fibers nice and strong and dense. Because we don't need a whole bunch of weak fibers attached into the bone, right? That doesn't make any sense. You give me a really strong attachment, but then the rest of it is weak. That's a vulnerability point there. And so those are the three things we're doing in relationship to tendons and ligaments with our fitness programs. And one thing like that's really important to understand is any time in our body we have a junction, and this is true with our bodies, this is true with like construction, when you build something, whenever you have a junction where you change one surface type to another surface type, like in our body, say when we go from muscle to tendon to bone, those junctions are places of weakness. Imagine, like force is transmitted kind of in waves, and say it's like waving through the muscle, right? Which has a certain amount of water, a certain amount of connectivity between the cells, all that kind of stuff. And then it hits the energy wave, hits that new surface, in this case, let's say the tendon. The tendon has a certain amount of water, it has a certain connectivity between cells, all that kind of stuff, but it's different than the muscle. And so that is a point of weakness where it's a little like, an earthquake, like the energy's coming through and then it hits this change in surface. And we can either make it so that energy can keep rolling through, or all of a sudden the energy is like, whoa, I got blocked. And that can be a moment of predisposing our horse to injury, right? So that's through all of this strengthening stuff. That's the other sort of big picture thing we're trying to do with our fitness plans, is make it so that the amount of energy that is needed for our horse to do the job, all structures in our horse can handle the flow of that energy, right? So again, just to use random, completely made up numbers, if the energy flow is 100, I need everything in that stream of energy flow to be able to accept at least 100 or more. I can't have like a 100, a 180, a 100, a 20, a 100, because all of a sudden that energy is like, oh, I'm stuck at the 80. Okay, I've kind of wiggled through. Oh, I'm really stuck at the 20. Because those little stick points are huge problems with injury. And so as you do progressive overload, and the stick points like really come up when we start talking about tendons and ligaments, because there's such a change in structure there. But that's when you do progressive overload, is you're kind of trying to get that floor. I think that's a good word. You're trying to get the floor of everything the same. The ceiling might be different. Like some things really might be able to take more energy through it than others, but I need the floor to be consistent. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Thanks for joining, Mindy. Let me know if you have any questions. In the course, like where we go on is, how do you do this, right? Like, okay, that all makes sense. How do I do it? How do I create a progressive overload program to help my horse have stronger tendons and ligaments and decrease their risk of injury there? All right, guys, let me know if you have any questions. You can, if you listen to this later, you can always put a comment underneath and I will answer them. And as a reminder, Equine Fitness Workshop starts on Tuesday, May 5th. It's a 3-part workshop. It's Teach Me Tuesdays in May. Every Tuesday evening, there'll be a session. I'd love it for you to be able to join live because you can get your questions answered. But if you can't, no worries. It will be recorded and sent to you. And then you always can listen and email me later with questions. But I really want to make this be interactive because I think that this stuff is awesome. And I want you to like elevate as a horseman and really understand like how, and horsewoman, how you keep your horse safe to do the job that we're asking him to do. So that's a huge, huge, huge goal of this workshop. So I hope to see you there. Join even if you can't attend, because you absolutely can listen and ask questions later. And let me know if you need anything else. All right, I will see you in here tomorrow. Have a great day.